Hall of Famer John McClain with us, 365 Sports, the NFL 17th, the final week of the regular season coming up this weekend, and most of the seeds are settled, but man, the AFC has some, including the Texans, trying to get themselves in the postseason. John, thanks for your time. When they went to the 17 games, it was money, right? That was the reason for doing that. In the end, has it created even more drama, or is it pretty much the same?
One game left, and there's 20 teams that still have playoff possibilities, which is amazing. Texans are trying to be one of the teams going from worst to first in their division. It happens every year. It has a streak going of like 33 years in a row. By the way, I got to say, I've been retweeting pictures of Foster Pavilion for days now because I'm so excited about Baylor getting a new building. Because I go back to watching them play at Arena Mars McClain Gym on campus, to the Heart of Texas Coliseum, to the Farrell Center. I think my first football game at Baylor was 1960, and my first basketball game was a little later. But I have so many great memories of the Coliseum, and all the pictures just look fantastic. What kind of setup do they have for the media as far as, is the press room as big as the one at the Farrell Center, and where are you guys going to be watching the games from?
I don't know, because I have only been there for a short little walkthrough. I didn't actually get to that part. I'll be there. I'm hoping. I haven't felt great today, but I was hoping to be able to get over there tomorrow just to kind of get my feel for the place. But I've been told the amenities are fantastic and the seating is better and closer, and that everything should be once they get completely 100% everything done, it should be just really, really nice.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see it at some point. Back to the NFL. The Texans haven't played a game all season that wasn't at noon. And for deadlines and podcasts, I write columns, do a podcast, and I do grades after the game. It's great. You know, I can watch the late games, and now they got a primetime game. They had one last year on Amazon against Philadelphia here, but this one is going to be on ESPN. It's going to be on ABC. They got Joe Buck. They got Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters. So it's a big deal in Indianapolis, where the Texans won last year in the last game by 1 point, a really big game that cost them Bryce Young. And, of course, they had to settle for C.J. Stroud. So if they win, the worst they could do Sunday, they win the division if the Titans upset Jacksonville. And if they lose, then they go to either Kansas City or Buffalo, if Buffalo beats Miami in Miami. And so I love this time of year, because it's the first time I've used Texans in playoffs in the same sentence since 2019.
John, the playoffs are starting to take shape. I know that the Eagles are struggling. The Cowboys kind of got lucky this last week. Who do you think is best positioned to make deep runs as we get towards the end here?
It seems clear to me Baltimore, who I picked before the season, and San Francisco are the best team. Cowboys are good at home, and I'll say this for Dan Campbell. He tried to get too cute, sending 3 linemen over to the referee to try to confuse the Cowboys, which he did, but he also confused the referee. I'm guessing there'll be a rule change in off-season. If you're an eligible receiver, only one can go over and tell the referee, I'm an eligible receiver, and rub your chest so they see what the number is. So the Cowboys are still invincible at home unless they suffer a humongous upset like the Eagles just did to Arizona. We're going to have another NFC East champion. It rotates every year. It's amazing. Eagles right now, boy, if you lose at home to Arizona, you'd think that would galvanize you, but they look like they're falling apart. And there's a reason that no Super Bowl loser has returned to the Super Bowl since the 90s, other than the Patriots. And so I think if all goes according to plan, it'll be Dallas going to Santa Clara, and it'll be who knows who, maybe the Browns going to Baltimore. Wouldn't that be a great story? Joe Flacco goes back to Baltimore and plays against the team where he was Super Bowl MVP. What a story that would be.
John, what do you make of the Russell Wilson situation out in Denver? What do you think the future holds there for both parties?
totally mishandled by the Broncos as they mishandled a lot, Greg. They become kind of a laughing stock, and I don't blame Russell Wilson at all. They wanted him to postpone the date of his injury guarantee when it became guaranteed. Well, of course he's not going to do that. He signed that contract in good faith. They can cut him anytime. I don't blame him. He's going to get cut. They will split the cap hit over 2 years, still be humongous. I could see him going somewhere like if they had a young quarterback as a backup, like, say, the Raiders, because he hadn't played bad. He's handled everything in a first-class manner. Maybe he'd end up at Washington if they wanted to give Sam Howell a year to watch. I'm just using that as an example. I don't think that would happen. Could it be New England? It's going to be a lot of quarterbacks drafted in the first round. And do you want to throw them to the wolves on a bad team, or would you like to have a veteran who can do things up front with the running game and the passing game that rookies can't, and let the rookie watch and learn like Justin Love has done? And I think I saw Justin Love has like 19 touchdowns and 1 interception in a certain number of games they've won over the second half of the season. So there's a lot to be said. Letting the guy watch and learn, or in the case of C.J. Stroud, putting him out there and let him help turn around a bad team, turn it into a competitive team.
Speaking of quarterbacks in the market, obviously a very quarterback-heavy draft coming up, but how much money do you think Michael Penix made for himself last night, or is he already kind of where he was in your mind and in the eyes of GMs and scouts, or is that one where like all of a sudden he enters the discussion in a much more serious manner?
Let me point out something that I think is ridiculous, and NFL denies it, but it's true. What a guy does in college has very little to do with where he's drafted. All of a sudden, teams will fall in or out of love with guys in shorts and T-shirts. When they're at their pro day, when they're at private workout, when they're at the combine, when they're at the Senior Bowl workout. Now, what they may go back and do is look at more tape of Penix, who'll be 24. Remember, he had 2 torn ACLs. His history of injuries and having 2 good seasons in a row, that'll be a big deal about him. What do they think about his health? And but man, I don't know that I've seen a quarterback do a better job of throwing pinpoint passes deep down the field. And it was so much fun to watch. But there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks go in the first round, because you guys know how desperate teams are. J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. There could be 6 of them going in the first round, maybe more, if somebody really stands out. What I can't wait to see is Quinn Ewers go back, which he should, and see if he goes back and he can hold off Arch Manning.
John, David Tepper in the news for throwing a drink on a fan outside of the suite, I guess, at a game in Jacksonville. Today, fined $300,000. Is he the modern or the newest on the top of the list, replacing Daniel Snyder?
I think $300,000 is ridiculous. That's tip money for him. They should have suspended him for a year from all team-related activities like they did with Snyder, although they never used the word suspension because they said he had stuff holding over their head that he would disclose. Now, he hasn't been despicable. He's a bully who doesn't know what he's doing. But Snyder was despicable. And the fines that he paid, I often wonder, where does all that money go? Fine $22 million here, $30 million there. Does it go to charity? Does it go into the coffers to give owners money to help build new stadiums? But not right now. David Tepper is the worst owner in the league. He doesn't have his first draft choice, which will be first overall, doesn't have a lot of talent. And, of course, somebody will go there and get hired because there's only 32 of these in the world. But whoever it is, he better keep his resume handy.
John, what did you think of the call at the end of the Cowboys-Lions game?
I thought that it was when the Lions tried to confuse the Cowboys, and they did, they confused the referee. They got too cute. Yes, the referee blew it, but you shouldn't have 3 guys over there trying to fool the other team. And that's why I think a new rule will come out saying that one person can go over and tell the referee, I'm eligible, so he can announce it. Yeah. One thing I would have done, by the way, I would have had a guy fall down and act like he's got a pain, a cramp. And in the meantime, I would have had a player go over and tell the referee, did you hear you announced 70? It's not 70. It's 68. Do something to stop the game. Because as one person said, the ref was in such a hurry to keep the game going fast. It's like he was catching an Uber. He didn't stop and talk to him. He just glanced at him, thought it was 70, and kept going. So Dan Campbell tried to get too cute.
Did that crew, do you know, I've seen reports, Craig's brought this up even today, did they get pushed down a little bit when it comes to any playoff activity?
Well, they're giving them the afternoon game with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs to win to try to get in the playoffs, so they certainly haven't punished them. You want to punish them, have them go do the Panthers game. Now, I think these assignments are made out ahead of time. But they're reported by Adam Schefter, and he's not going with this unless the league told him. You won't see that crew in the playoffs of the Super Bowl. And but I still think the Lions deserve a lot of the blame. Had he just kicked the field goal in the first quarter like Troy Aikman was saying, take the points on the road, instead of going for first down and getting stuck, they would have won the game. Had he kicked it, they would have gone into overtime. I think sometimes Dan Campbell outsmarts himself, but good for him because they're still winning.
Thank you, John. Happy New Year. Great
Thank
to
you,
have
guys.
You back.
Happy New Year. Second Bears.
John McClain, Houston Chronicle for years, and then, of course, now part of Sports 610 for years, radio in Houston, and Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Fame voter, and also a part of the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. When we come back, Paul Catalina.